His name was Daniel Reza. Most people in the 63-story Langford Dynamics Tower knew him simply as Reza the Cleaner, or the quiet one with the daughter drawings taped inside his cart. Every morning at 4:17 a.m., while the city was still mostly asleep, Daniel pushed his heavy gray cart out of the service elevator on the roof level. He liked starting at the top and working his way down. It felt like descending back into the real world one floor at a time. He had been doing it for 4 years and 3 months, ever since the army decided a badly shattered femur and 3 fused vertebrae meant he was no longer mission essential. The doctors had been kind. The paperwork had not. Now he cleaned glass offices for people who earned in a month what he used to make in 4 years of combat deployments. He never complained. He couldn't afford to. Because every third Tuesday of the month, a 7-year-old girl named Noor waited outside the gates of Karachi Grammar School with her little blue backpack and one question. "Abba, did they give you the raise yet?" He always smiled the same soft, tired smile and answered the same way. "Not yet, Mary John. But soon. Inshallah." Noor never pushed. She just slipped her small hand into his big, scarred one and walked the 42 minutes home because the bus fare was better spent on her new asthma inhaler. That Tuesday morning had started like every other. Until 11:42 a.m., when the entire building heard the unmistakable sound of turbine blades failing to bite air. The prototype, the Falcon LX, had been Victor Langford's personal baby. $57 million of research, 3 years of development, and the promise of a contract that would make Langford Dynamics the undisputed king of the luxury VTOL market. It rose beautifully during the live demo. Then, at around 300 feet, the main rotor gearbox decided today was the day it would eat itself. The aircraft auto-rotated down in a sickening spiral and slammed into the safety net erected over the executive helipad. No one died. Several millionaires soiled very expensive trousers. The stock ticker reacted immediately. By 12:10 p.m. Victor Langford was screaming in the boardroom. By 12:28 p.m. someone remembered the old army helicopter mechanic who now mopped their floors. By 12:41 p.m. Daniel Reza was escorted, not asked, escorted, up to floor 38 in his janitor uniform, still holding a wet floor sign. When he stepped into the executive lounge, 200 pairs of eyes turned toward him like he was the punchline they'd all been waiting for. Victor, red-faced and sweating through Armani, pointed at the broken scale model that engineers had frantically dragged inside. "Fix it," he barked. "Or admit you're full of shit about your so-called expertise." Daniel looked at the model. Then at the live feed still playing on every screen, the real Falcon LX lying broken and smoking on the helipad below. Then back at Victor. "I'll need tools," he said quietly. "And about 40 minutes. More laughter. Victor leaned in, smelling of expensive cologne and panic. "Tools. You've got your mop. Use that. Or better yet," he grinned, cruel and theatrical for the cameras still rolling. "Fix it right now, and I'll kiss you. Full commitment. Right on the mouth. How's that for motivation, hero?" The room roared again. Daniel didn't smile. He didn't get angry. He simply nodded once. "Deal." Then he took off his navy blue janitor jacket, folded it carefully, placed it on a nearby leather chair, and began to work. The first 10 minutes were pure theater. Victor kept up the commentary like a bad stand-up comedian. "Careful, don't get grease on the carpet, we just had it cleaned. Look at him, he thinks he's in Top Gun." The crowd loved it. Daniel never looked up. He removed panels with the same slow, deliberate movements he once used on Black Hawks in 120-degree heat with bullets snapping overhead. At minute 17, someone noticed he wasn't using the model's tiny screwdrivers. He had pulled a small, battered multi-tool from his pocket, the same one he'd carried since 2009. At minute 23, the laughter started to thin. People began drifting closer. At minute 29, an older engineer, one of the original designers, whispered, "Wait, he's not following the wiring diagram. He's tracing the actual fault path." At minute 34, Victor's smirk began to falter. Daniel spoke for the first time since he started. "Mr. Langford, when was the last time someone physically inspected the main rotor servo hydraulic line anchors?" Victor blinked. "What? The anchors?" The little brackets that hold the hydraulic lines to the rotor mast. They're rated for 1.8 tons of shear force. These ones are cracked. Hairline. You can't see it unless you know exactly where to look and exactly how to feel for it. Silence now. Real silence. Daniel continued, voice calm as prayer. Someone overtorqued the mounting bolts during final assembly. Probably rushed to meet the demo deadline. The vibration fatigued the brackets. First hard maneuver and pop. Hydraulic pressure bleed off. Loss of collective control. Textbook. He held up the broken scale model bracket between two fingers. Tiny. Fractured. But unmistakable. Victor's face drained of color. Daniel didn't gloat. He simply reassembled the model with the same care he used to tuck Noor into bed each night, then stood up, wiped his hands on his trousers, and looked straight at the CEO. It's fixed. The demonstration aircraft down on the pad has the same fault. If you ground it now, change the brackets, and retorque everything to spec, you'll save the contract, and maybe a few lives. He paused. Then, very softly. I believe you owe me something. The room was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning hum. Victor stared at him, really stared, for the first time. Not as a janitor. Not as a punchline. As a man who had just saved his entire company from a catastrophe, without raising his voice once. Victor swallowed. Took one step forward. Then another. And in front of 200 witnesses, 3 live news feeds, and a YouTube live stream that would eventually hit 147 million views. Victor Langford leaned in and kissed Daniel Reza on the cheek. Not a peck. A real, deliberate, respectful kiss of gratitude. Then he stepped back, eyes shining, voice hoarse. I was wrong. Completely, humiliatingly wrong. And I'm sorry. Daniel nodded once. Then he picked up his folded janitor jacket, put it back on, and walked toward the elevator. Halfway there, a little girl's voice rang out from the back of the crowd. Abba. Noor pushed through legs and designer trousers, ran across the marble, and threw herself into her father's arms. Daniel lifted her up. She whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. Did they give you the raise yet? Daniel looked around at the silent sea of faces, some crying, some applauding, some simply stunned. He smiled. The same soft, tired smile he gave her every Tuesday. Not yet, Mary John. But today feels like maybe soon. He carried her toward the elevator. Behind him, Victor Langford called out. Reza. Daniel turned. Tomorrow. 9 a.m. My office. We're offering you a position. Lead maintenance consultant. Full benefits. And a proper salary. Daniel looked at his daughter. Then back at the CEO. I'll think about it, he said simply. The doors closed. And somewhere in the silence that followed, the entire internet seemed to take one long, collective breath.